What's happening, people? Welcome back to the podcast. So today I've got a solo episode. This is only my third time doing a solo one, so it's very, very different. It feels weird not looking at someone across the room from me. But first of all, I'd just like to say thank you for everyone that's been supporting it recently. So for some stupid fucking reason, I never made an actual podcast page. So I've made one on TikTok. So I've been posting podcast clips, but I've just been doing it on like my Instagram story and doing it on my actual TikTok. And they've been dying on their arse. And I think the reason is because when I post clips on my actual TikTok page, when people see someone else and it's my page, it makes no fucking sense. So people skip by it. So I made a TikTok page and the second video has like a ridiculous amount of views and stuff. And it's just, what do you call him? James that was on last week. And he was just talking about anxiety and it's got wild amount of views. And I was like, why the fuck have I not done this before? And TikTok's random as fuck anyway. So now I'm just going to post random clips on there and hopefully I can push people over. But yeah, just want to say a thank you. So if you can, it'd be great if you could give us a wee rating on Spotify if you're listening or watching this on Spotify, just a wee rating bit. I think I've got like 35 5 stars and then one star, which I keep fucking, I hope they go back and change it one day. And if you're on YouTube, just if you want to subscribe, a lot of people watch the podcast but aren't subscribed, and then a wee like as well will go a long way. Right, so today I'm going to be talking about motivation, and I'll preface this by saying this is my least favorite question I get asked on a daily basis. So like the most asked questions are just like, why am I not losing fat? Or like, what do I do in the gym? Like, how do I start? And then my least favorite one is, how do I get motivated, or how do I stay motivated? Because it's a question with zero fucking substance. It doesn't mean anything to me. Like, everyone has different situations. Everyone's in a different place. Everyone struggles in different ways. And the actual question, how do I get motivated, doesn't mean anything. So I've basically sat in Starbucks for about 3 or 4 hours this morning. I've came up with like 4 or 5 different segments to this, and I want to make it in a way that I'll go off in tangents, just see where my erratic fucking brain takes me. I'll end up I'm just going to throw shit at a wall, see what sticks, and go down whatever avenue I go down. And then I'm very particular in the way that I try come across in these things. I don't want to sound preachy. The last time I done a solo podcast, we had like a desk up there, and I felt like I was doing like a PowerPoint or a solo talk. And I think I avoided every single solo talk that we ever done. I don't think I've done a solo talk in school. I think I've done one solo talk in school. And then the rest of the time I just would straight up say to my English teacher, here, I'm not doing it. And then he'd come in and go, is your solo talk ready? And I was like, did you hear me? I'm not doing it. I'm definitely not doing it. And I would just stay off or just like skip the class or whatever. So I want to make sure that it doesn't come across preachy. And I'm just giving you like my raw, honest take on motivation, and also like my own honest experiences with how I've managed to do things or what's worked for me, rather than like, here, do this. This is what works, and being a preachy wee cunt. Also, I'm going to be turning the pages in this jotter, and I did notice that I have cocks on the back of all the pages. Here they are. That was heavy embarrassing when a girl was sitting next to me in Starbucks and I was fucking flicking through this. And basically I was making a video one day and I thought it'd be funny to say that you should track your workouts, and then I was going to show them that I'd been drawing cocks, and it wasn't that funny. So now I've just got a cock on the back of all the pages. So make of that what you will. Right. So the first segment is the actual problem with the word motivation itself, right? So I always try to put it this way. Motivation is the same, it's the exact same sort of feeling as happiness. So I think you should try more look at motivation as like a temporary emotion. Like it's something that you're not going to have very much of. And it's the same way that anyone that sort of chases being happy, like, they just deny themselves of being happy. I think one of the best things I ever done for myself was, like, I think about stuff like this all the time, by the way. Like, I'll sit in deep thought all the time. Like, my dad will be talking to me and I'll just be zoning out, and I'll literally be, I'm always thinking about these sort of things and how to frame them to like clients or to like people. But one of the best things that I got round in my own head was trying to look at like happiness as like contentment. So I wouldn't be striving for happiness. I'd be striving to just be content. And that actually helped me a lot because I've been in places where I haven't been content. So then like realizing when you're like sitting there, like, here, I'm not fucked, and being content with that rather than like chasing this feeling of being like elated all the time. I just don't, it's just not, you don't ever, have you ever watched someone get asked, are you happy? They don't sit there and like smile and start like laughing. They're just like, I think so. Do you know what I mean? They're never like, oh yeah, I'm fucking delighted. I'm delighted 24/7. That's not how it works. So I think that's the way you kind of have to come at it. I also think when people come to me and go, oh, I'm just not motivated, I think it's very similar to when people deny themselves happiness and just go, I'll be happy when I'll be happy when I get a six pack. I'll be happy when I lose this weight. It just does. You already need to start trying to frame it differently, because it's something that just doesn't exist at all. And I think there's something that I used to do as well, and I kind of call it like mental masturbation, right? Where you'd sit and look at all these like YouTube is filled with all of these like how to be happy videos, how to be motivated videos. Like I'm a big fan of James Smith, right? But he's just released that confidence book. If you go on YouTube, there'll probably be videos on his own YouTube. And also, by the way, when I'm saying this, nothing against James Smith, I actually really like him. I'd love him to come on the podcast, but it's just when I was scripting this, I went on my YouTube and I was trying to think of things that are in line with what I'm going to say. And his videos are obviously everywhere. He's been on Diary of a CEO. He's been on that London Real podcast, the guy who's fucking lost his mind and thinks the world's corrupt, or the full world's corrupt. And all the videos will be like, this is how you get confidence. This is the only video you need to get confidence. And I think all of these things are the same, like confidence, motivation, happiness. It's all people are chasing these like levels of, you'll never just be like, oh, here, I'm really confident now. You'll always still have things that you need to build confidence on. You'll never just be like, oh, I'm really happy all the time, 24/7. Oh, I'm really motivated all the time, 24/7. None of that exists. That's just the reality of it. Nobody's in that sort of position where they're one of those feelings all the time. So I think one of the biggest problems people have is they'll sit and watch videos like that 24/7 and just, I think it's like procrastination. Because I was very bad for it when I was younger. I would just sit and like watch other people do the stuff that I wanted to do instead of doing it myself. Like I would just put it off. And all of you are pretty much aware of my best mate Michael. When I first met him, he was going down all these rabbit holes like self-help books. And I remember saying to him, I was like, what is it you want to do? And go and do that, because you're like just listening about Joe Rogan talking about him doing this podcast. What is it you want to do? That's what you need to get away from. Stop. All of these videos are designed to get you to watch them. They're not actually really designed for, and I know I say this with a lot of irony, because what I'm doing right now is pretty much the exact same thing. I'm probably going to title it something like how to be motivated. But there's an element of bollocks in that, because it comes from you actually doing stuff. It doesn't come from watching other people do it or watching other people telling you how to do it. It comes from you actually doing whatever the fuck it is that you want to do. So I think people expect to watch these videos and expect it to be like, I've been thinking about wording this for a while in my head. That's why I'm laughing. I think people think of it as like mentally stimulating the brain the same way that you would get horny by touching yourself. Like they think they've got a clit around their forehead and they can rub that, and then that's going to get them motivated, when it's just not going to happen. You just need to force yourself to do whatever the fuck the thing is that you want to do. And everybody knows what it is they need to do. Like if there's something they want to achieve, they might not be fully educated on it, but they have a rough idea what it is they need to do. So I think that's where people struggle a lot. As well, I think the reason I wanted to do the podcast on this subject is a lot of people that have came on have talked about the Chimp Paradox book, and I've only read like 100 pages of it so far. But again, it's stuff that I would think about a lot. So when I was reading it, I wasn't like, this is like stuff I've never thought about. It's actually like just solidifying the way I've always perceived things, perceived like motivation and like my emotions and stuff. It was when I was reading that book, it's exactly how I already thought. So the main like thesis, what a fucking gimpy word. The main like way that the book is constructed and the main point it's trying to get across is that there's two like parts of your brain, or there's two people in your brain, and one is the chimp and one is the human. So it's for example, if you know that you should be going to the gym, but you've got one part of your brain that's going, you've done too much today, you've already done enough, or the people are maybe going to judge me in the gym, or what if you you're not capable, you're not the type of person that goes to the gym. That would be like the chimp that's speaking. So the chimp, in the book they talk about the chimp, its main instinct is survival. So just anything that's going to make it survive. So that's why I'll be like talking about food way more than the human part of the brain. It'll be like really, really defensive, more emotional. So like it'll jump to conclusions maybe in like relationships and stuff like that. Whereas the human looks at things a lot more logical. So it'll be like, if I want to be the person that goes to the gym and I want to get in better shape, I need to go to the gym. Whereas the chimp will be like, you don't go to the gym and we should stay in the house. Do you know what I mean? Because it's wired to go for survival. So when I first started PTing, I actually talked about stuff like this a lot, but I always framed, because I remember having this, and you still battle with it every single day. Like pretty much every decision that has any sort of difficulty in it, you never don't have it. That's what I mean. So there's two parts of your brain and they're always there, but the book's more about controlling the chimp. But what I used to talk about was like, I always used to think it was like alter ego that was like on my shoulder, like a wee bit like the devil or something. That was the way I used to think about it, because I always remember every time I tried to do something, it would talk me out of it, but I used to always let it talk me out of it. So that would be with everything, because I remember when I've spoke about loads of stuff like this when I first started like trying to lose weight and stuff, when I was overweight when I was a kid, and I would always just sabotage myself instantly. Like I would get 3 days in and like it would take one wee tiny fucking thing to go wrong, but I'd be looking for it, or like the chimp or the devil on my shoulder would be looking for it. So that could literally just be one little bit of food that I thought was bad, like a Kit Kat or something, or going, well, I didn't count my calories in. I was uneducated in calories as well. Or like the scale not going down. The scale's not going to go down all the time anyway. So I just need one little thing and that'd be me stopped. And then I'm going to call it the devil, right? What he'd say to me is just start again on Monday. You've failed this week. Like that's you done. You've failed. So I remember struggling with that loads. And I remember when I first started PTing, that was one of the things I was talking about all the time, because I just knew people were going to relate to it. But it does make so much sense. And a lot of things I'm going to talk about will be like theories that I have. Some of them will be studied. Some of them will just be like from pure experience with myself and clients. But I don't actually know the science behind that. But what he says, I guarantee you, if you think about how you think about things, you'll always notice that there is like that give and take between two different opinions, and that, like, it makes so much sense. So it's not more about like stopping that. It's like being as soon as you're aware of it, you have a wee bit more control over your actions, and that's what all of this is. It's not about having a feeling of being motivated. It's more about having control of your actions and taking the action that gets you to your goal more often than not. That's all it is. So again, other things like the devil on my shoulder used to say was, I'd be very, very, very negative. So I'd be like, my evidence for who I am is I'm fat. I've always like, I remember sort of being fat when I was like 6. At 5, I was the cutest fucking kid in the world. and then 6, I looked like fucking a wee fat gerbil. So that was, so at like 11, I was like, all my evidence, or even 12, 13, 14, 15, all my evidence is I am fat. So like, why is that going to change? Then other things, it would be like I'd convince myself that there was maybe something wrong with me, or that I was meant, like genetically, I was meant to be fatter. A lot of my family would be overweight as well. My mum and dad were overweight that time. My dad's not overweight anymore. My dad's one of those people that is like got up to like 17, 18 stone like 3 times in his life and then sorted out. But I would look around and just go, maybe I'm just broken, which is something you see a lot of people do. So a lot of people will gravitate toward like the fat doctor. That woman is one of the most toxic people on the internet. And like, but a lot of people will go to her because it'll validate how they feel about themselves, and also validate how the chimp feels, and it'll just keep like giving them more evidence to why they are the way they are, even though they can change things. And that's one of the things that I'm most passionate about, is like, you can change things. You just need to be willing to work on it, and it's mostly in your head that you have to work on. And then another one, again, because of all the evidence I'd built up of failing, like that part of my brain would just be like, you're not capable of sticking to it. Like, I remember that being a specific thing that I always said to myself, is like, you've never stuck to anything, so you never will. So give up now. Do you know what I mean? Like, stop, just quit, because you're not going to be able to do it. That was something I remember happening a lot. Again, even just before I started this, so I've sort of worked on those things, and just by going to the gym, just by maybe even with business, I was very scared of that at the start, because I'd done my own I'd been self-employed before doing freestyle football, but I wasn't anywhere near as successful. I wasn't anywhere near as busy. I done all right. I built a social media following and stuff, but I didn't quite get to the heights that I wanted to get to. I didn't make the money I wanted to get to. I didn't actually like the job as much as I thought I would as well. So when I started PTing, I remember just going like that, you're not productive enough to do this, because I used to like make all these lists of stuff that I had to do when I was self-employed as a freestyler, and it would be very similar stuff like making social media content and stuff, and I just would never get the stuff that I wanted to do done. And I would always talk myself out of stuff. I tried YouTube for a while, and I remember I was trying to make 2 videos a week, and I would do it for like 3 weeks, and then I would just lose motivation. Do you know what I mean? I would just stop doing it. So even when I started this, I was like, the evidence says you're not capable of being self-employed. And now, even though I've worked on that, more evidence showing that this never goes away, is even on the way to do this podcast, I'm like, you're not capable of talking for 30, 60 minutes on your own to a camera without a guest. Like, you aren't capable of doing it. Then other things that would say to me, and this is what I was thinking in Starbucks whilst I was like writing down ideas for the podcast, is like, it was already happening there and then. Like, with the chimp in my brain was already happening. The evidence was that I was nervous to do this. Like, I was literally nervous to speak on my own. And then it'll also say things to me like, just cancel the podcast. And because I've got one on Wednesday with a guest, it's like, you're shit at talking like on your own, you're shit at solo podcasts, just wait till you do the guest one, like just cancel it, you've got one in the background anyway. That's all stuff that's just putting me off doing what it is that I need to do. I know I need to get better at podcasting. I know I need to get better at formulating thoughts in my head, and then because it's actually quite difficult to podcast, because I can't just read off this sheet. I can just look at it and then I have to formulate my thoughts and then hope that it comes out of my mouth in the way that it's came out of my brain, which is actually quite a difficult thing. So I've been overthinking that for the last 2 days, because I know that I'm going to have to speak on my own. So again, it just shows you that no matter what it is you do in life, no matter what point you get to, it's still going to come up all the time. So I think having awareness of it is the most important thing. Like, that's beyond anything, it's having awareness of it, because you'll never stop it, but just be aware of it. Another thing that I've been reading up a lot on as well, and this is what the reason I'm going through all these topics is because that I think motivation itself and the topic of motivation and how to be motivated is such a load of shite that you have to actually explain how people think in general, explain where people fuck up, and also go through your own sort of experiences so people can relate to it and then maybe see the trends in their own life rather than just give them fucking some shite quote like I don't know, people love quoting that Mark Manson book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and I always butcher the quote. Do you know the quote, Paul? The one where it's like mo- motivation is action or something. Do you know what I'm talking about? Motivation comes after action. People, personal trainers love spunking their load over that quote as if it actually does anything for anyone. I really don't think it does. So I was watching a podcast on a guy talking about neuroplasticity, and it's just that I didn't read the studies for this. A lot of like what I talk about, I just don't read studies. I think studies are really boring. I'll read someone talk about them reading the studies over um over actually looking up the actual studies, because it's just a load of stats, and then I'll just read what the interpretation of the study is at the bottom. That's my I'm just not a study guy. I just don't want to quote studies and go look at this study et al. I can't be arsed with all of that. So I was watching a podcast, and what he was saying actually made so much sense as well. So neuroplasticity is like the idea that you can change parts of your brain. So they done studies on like ballet dancers, where I think it's called, yeah, I wrote it down anyway. So cerebral cortex, I think it's called, and it's just a part of the brain, and they actually like done scans on the brains of ballet dancers. So when that's part of their brain is meant to signal when they're dizzy, because they've been ballet dancing that much, it's actually smaller in the part of the brain where it's meant to be. So in a regular person, that part that's meant to send signals of you being dizzy is actually smaller in the brain of a ballet dancer. So there's lots of evidence to show that you can actually change your brain. It used to be thought that it used to be like a common thought around the world that after like childhood and early childhood and early adulthood, you couldn't really change the way your brain was. So it was just like, that's your genetics and your childhood and your upbringing. Now that's the brain you have. Whereas there's actually a lot of evidence now to show that you can change the way your brain, like, that's why it's called neuroplasticity, the idea that you can mold it into different ways. Obviously, it's not just a case of like changing the way you think once and then that's you've now rewired your brain. Obviously, it's a lot more complicated than that, but it's just to get you into the frame of mind that you aren't your brain. Do you know what I mean? Same way you aren't the chimp part of your brain. So you are capable of changing it, and the way you change it isn't just by your thoughts, it's by your actions. So if you consistently change your actions, then you will change your brain. And that makes so much sense when you think about habits and you think about ever building a habit. You think, oh, I just kept doing this and eventually it didn't become hard. And everyone will have some part of that, something they've done in their life where they've got evidence that they never done something before and now they do it. And that those can be positive and negative. I think going through some of my own experiences where I can see the evidence of that was obviously the gym was one of them, but I also want to just go through maybe other parts of like my life or my thinking where I think this has actually changed, just so it's not always related to the gym, because I think there's other parts that have all, because I think sometimes a lot of people will say that, like, first of all, building their gym routine has played into different parts of their life, and that I feel that as well, because once you build the confidence that you can go to the gym like 3 or 4 times a week, you start realizing that, oh, I'm capable of manipulating the way I think, and if I manage to do it with going to the gym 3 or 4 times a week, surely I can manage it with, like, I don't know, learning a language or putting myself out my comfort zone to go on more dates. Do you know what I mean? So I think, yeah, making content, that was definitely one of them. So like I said, when I was starting to do personal training, and I was a bit nervous about it, and I was talking myself out of like posting videos online. And in the first week I'd be like, I can't keep this up, because I was posting like every day. I'd be like, there's no way I can keep this up. And I'm like, over 2 years in now, I've probably went like 10, 20 days in total over the 2 years where I haven't posted something. I'm not saying I make videos every day, but I've hardly missed many days where I haven't posted. And that just built up over time. I can remember the way I felt at the start. I remember the first like 2 or 3 months, I was just a bit constantly stressed or constantly slightly anxious that I couldn't do it. So I would constantly be talking to myself, but I'd actually put a lot of pressure on myself to do it, because I knew I had like other things that were stressing me out that was making me do it as well. So like I was adamant that I wasn't going back to a regular job, so that was obviously helping me. I really don't want to say it was motivating me, because that's half of what I'm against, but it was keeping me accountable. Let's put it that way. So I really didn't want to go back to a regular job. I'd also just moved back home from Australia, so I wasn't making any money, and I didn't really want. Ironically, I moved back in with my dad, but I didn't want to live with my dad because I just experienced like 2 years of living out at home. So I was back in with my dad. I didn't have much money, and I was like, I need to start making money. And I also was like, if this is gonna work, I need to start getting clients pretty soon. So I put a lot of pressure on myself, and like there's a big stigma about like hard work, and like people would think that's a bit toxic. But after like 2 or 3 months of posting content all the time, I stopped being stressed about it, because I proved to myself that I could do it. And I've not really been stressed about posting content so much since. You obviously still have little bits, like if I go away on holiday and I don't post in for 3 or 4 days, like that would maybe stress me out a bit, but it's not to the level of like beating myself up all the time thinking I'm not capable of doing it. It was like, yeah, fuck it, I'm not going to post for 3 or 4 days. I now know that when I come back from wherever I am, I'll be able to just start posting again. I'll be able to get back into it. So that's like little things where I know that I've changed the way I think about things. I've got some personal theories, right? Just from coaching people and my own experiences of like actually how to not keep yourself motivated, how to keep yourself doing the things it is that you know you need to be doing. Right. So one of them that's a personal theory in terms of it'll be helpful for coaches, but it'll also be helpful for people just trying to learn, is when I first started coaching, because like the world is so fucking soft now. Like it is, everything's soft. Like the whole Molly May thing getting slaughtered last year just because she said people are capable of doing a wee bit better than where they are. And that's actually worded that worse than she did. What she said was actually way nicer. So, and there's a whole stigma on like working hard. I think Jimmy Carr said it on Diary of a CEO. He was like, if you think you're going to get somewhere like in terms of your career without working hard, you're a fucking idiot. And like he actually said it very similar to that. And there's such a stigma on like hard work, such a stigma on like men just wanting to do a wee bit better and stuff. And what I've noticed from coaching is I let that affect the way I was coaching people. So because I was worried that if I called someone out, like it would hurt their feelings and they'd maybe say something bad about me, and that maybe like going online or whatever. When people wouldn't do workouts, or when people would maybe say, give me an excuse, I would just be like, all right, okay, try better next week. Whereas I've found I actually get further with people in terms of clients when I'm actually just like, I'll never actually like will have a proper go at someone, but I've got 1 or 2 clients just now where I've said, if you miss a workout over the next month, and I only give people 3 workouts a week. Usually most of my clients are 3 workouts a week, and I know they can do it. I'll give them an ultimatum, and I'll just be like, if you keep missing workouts, like over the next month, if you've missed 1 workout, we're just going to stop working together, because it's not fair on me and it's not fair on you charging you money and you paying your money and you're not really doing it. And although that can sound a bit harsh, most of the time they don't miss a workout after that. Whereas if I say to them, oh, here, just try to get 3 in the next week, it doesn't really matter if you don't, they keep missing them. A lot of the times people will maybe want to hear the nice thing, but actually what they actually want is to change things about themselves, start being the type of person that goes to the gym. And sometimes that involves hearing stuff they don't want to hear about themselves. It's just a necessary evil. So that's one thing I've definitely learned, is you have to have tough conversations. You have to start having them. And I definitely was passive as a coach when I first started, and now like at least one or every month or two or three clients will go off of me because we'll just be like, this isn't working, and I've maybe gave them an ultimatum and just went, you need to start doing it, otherwise it's not worth working together. And there's all sorts of other things I've been talking about on the podcast quite a lot, about being very, not picky, but like making sure that I take on clients that are definitely serious about it. Like not taking on clients that are like, I'm going to be a terrible client. I'm like, I believe you, let's not work together. So that all kind of plays into what I've been talking about quite a lot. But that's definitely one thing I've figured out. Another personal theory I've got is that excuses usually come from the chimp part of your brain. So as a personal trainer, I'm sure any personal trainer listening to this, you've probably heard, you feel like a bit of a school teacher sometimes with excuses people come at the end of the week. And I also say to people, if there's 2 weeks worth of excuses, I'm not going to question, like when people are like, oh, I crashed my car, or oh, I've been in hospital or whatever, I don't question it, because if that is the case, then obviously I went, why did you not get your workout in? They're like, oh, here, I had a heart attack. And I'm like, no, you never. Do you know what I mean? You can't do that. But when there's a trend, I'm just like, here, I give them the ultimatum again. But that's one thing you have to realize as well, is there's a fine line between your excuse being like you being tired. Sometimes you might be tired. 90% of the time, it's your chimp talking to you, saying, like, trying to get you out of doing the difficult thing. So again, be aware of that. What was the other thing? Self-help books being mental masturbation. I've spoke about that anyway, but just in terms of like my own experiences, I definitely read far too many self-help books when I was younger. They all say the same thing, that they all say the exact same thing. And I think that's procrastination of doing what it is that you need to be doing. Another trend is people convincing themselves that they're an outlier, that there's something different to them, or severely different. Obviously, everyone has different circumstances, everyone has different upbringings, different past experiences and stuff. But it doesn't mean that people convince themselves that they can't change, but they definitely can. That's one thing I'm definitely passionate about as well. So the last sort of thing I want to touch on is some strategies that have actually worked for myself and worked for clients. One of them is definitely, I say to all my clients, I don't care what, obviously some people have different circumstances, but in general, if you want to get your workouts in a week, start on the right path and get a workout in on a Monday. Even if your busiest days on a Monday, but you've still got an hour somewhere, start it off with one workout, because it stops you from trying to play catch up throughout the rest of the week. Another one is actually like having, well, I was going to say, because I was going to touch again on the ultimatums, but see if you even like paid someone, or you had like a partner to go to the gym with, any sort of way that's going to keep you accountable is definitely worth having, because any sort of like extra thing that's going to help your environment, like give you that extra push. Like it's 10 times easier for me to get my in-person clients to go to the gym because they're with me and they know that they're going to let me down. They'd be letting me down if they didn't go to the gym. My in-person clients just don't miss sessions. I have conversations with other personal trainers where their clients do miss sessions, and I'm not saying I'm special in any way, but I just make it really clear at the start, because I get so annoyed when people are either like 20 minutes late or miss sessions. Like I just wouldn't let anyone do it to me 2 or 3 times, because it like ruins your day. And I'm very big on like you coming first before anyone else. So making sure that you have some sort of like accountability. An in-person coach is actually so good. Obviously online's quite good as well, but I would gravitate more towards in person if you're the type of person that really needs help, like going to the gym. If you're the type of person that just needs an extra accountability, a little bit more education, you can feel like you can go to the gym on your own, then online's still obviously a good choice. Another one that I thought about as well, about in terms of like the neuroplasticity side, was I read, and this is definitely going to be a tangent because I think I was actually meant to speak about it earlier, but I wanted to actually speak on this because I wanted to speak on experiences that weren't related to the gym in terms of like the neuroplasticity side and changing the way your brain works. So there was a book, what's it called? I can't remember what it's called. And the anxious and the attachment theory, that's what it's called. And it was talking about relationships and being anxiously attached, avoidantly attached, or secure. And I didn't agree with all of it because I think there's so many different like ways that you can be, that I think having just 3 different ways to be in a relationship is so vague, and there's definitely more to it. But I definitely noticed the very first relationship I got into, when I was reading that book, I was definitely anxiously attached. And I would be more looking for the negatives all the time. So just daft stuff. So I'd never been the type of person that would have been like overly needy or like overly, like I would never double text someone or anything like that. I just knew that was a massive red flag and not to be doing. But I think even just the way I'd have worded stuff, I would have came across as if I'm not secure, basically. I did definitely probably be worded stuff in a way to like try to get the other person to like make me feel better, like to validate me maybe. And if I look back on things, there's stuff I'd done definitely that helped me change the way I think about stuff like that. So like I worked on myself quite a lot after that breakup. One of the things I'd done was whenever I felt like I was getting, because I think you can end up in those relationships, one, because of the way you are in your past experiences, but also the person you choose. So I think I was like that, but also the other person I was with was exacerbating all of those things. So if I felt like I was insecure, they would do stuff to make me more insecure. Do you know what I mean? So I think I avoided situations like that because I seen the trends. So if I was with someone, go, oh, that feels like the way it felt before, I'd just avoid situations like that. Because I think the more you expose yourself to stuff that you know is triggering you at the time and you haven't fully figured that out yet, I think that just makes it worse. It's like exposing the wound that you have over and over again. It's like one of those, I think when anyone comes to me for any sort of like breakup advice, which happens a lot, I think it's just because I've been through 1 or 2 breakups, but like my mates will always come to me for it. The biggest thing that I say to people is like, you need to cut all ties on social media, because you just even seeing their name just like reopens that. Do you know what I mean? Or them just texting you reopens that. So I think over time, I now will see myself like talking to girls and like they would maybe do something that I remember would have like made me anxious, and it just doesn't bother me anymore. And I think from not exposing myself to that over and over again, also speaking to like girls that were probably more securely attached as well. And that's what the book's about. It's about anxious attached they usually find avoidance who then make them more anxious. And then you get secure attached. And if you end up being either the anxious or avoidant attached and you find someone secure, that usually helps you become more secure as well. So I think probably just like my other experiences with girls where they didn't make me triggered as much. So over time, that's just helped me change the way I think about relationships. And I'm a lot more looking at the positives when I meet someone rather than looking at the negatives. So that's like one experience I've had out with the gym that I'm just like, that's like the neuroplasticity idea is definitely valid, because I've changed the way I think about loads of different things. I've changed the way I think about the gym and my fitness and being overweight. I don't like identify as like someone who's fat anymore. I've changed the way that think about business. And instead of being like, I can never do this self-employed thing, I don't have the motivation for it, I actually have been doing it for over 2 years now, and I'm like, I could I could help someone else start this now. I'm that confident about it. And then with relationships and stuff as well, I'm not fucking terrified of them anymore, which I was. So yeah, that's like one of my theories I have towards relationships, definitely. And I'm definitely not. I try my best to speak from personal experience only with relationships and not make it like do what I did, because I haven't cracked that code yet. Another strategy that's definitely worked for me is having a whiteboard and having something there that you can see every day that makes it clear what it is that you need to do or what it is that you want to do. So I think when I first started doing social media, like on that whiteboard would literally be like how many posts I wanted to do in a week. If I wanted to go live on TikTok, which is one thing I was big on at the start, I wrote on the whiteboard, and the whiteboard was right in front of my desk. So I seen it every day. So it wasn't more that it was like motivating me to do it. It was more that I was clear on what it was that I had to do, so that when the fucking devil on my shoulder or the chimp was saying to me not to do it, that whiteboard was like, this is what you need to do. Like logic, this whiteboard was like, this is what you need to be doing. Another one, another little like, this is a bit of a quote, but I'm a big fan of Mike Mckinney and Jordan Syatt's podcast, How to Be a Personal Trainer. One thing Jordan Syatt's big on, and he posts loads of videos. I remember he went through a phase and he was literally just saying, just don't give up. Just don't give yourself the chat of like, I'm giving up now, in terms of like, if it's fitness related, it's like, no matter what happens, no matter if you go over your calories, no matter if you miss a workout, just don't give up. That, and like that resonates with people a lot, because you're gonna fuck up loads of times, and a lot of us can let that like deteriorate, or a lot of us can let that make us self-sabotage, when it's just a case of just don't fucking give up. Another thing I've done that I've spoke about on the podcast loads, is muting everyone on social media. So again, like, it's getting worse that my brain's now figuring out more and more ways to watch people's stories and stuff. If I was to show you my Instagram, basically all the stories at the top are like, they don't have red rings around them. They're like black and white, and you can't really see them, but you can still click on them. I don't really do that, but I'm starting to get worse for like looking through who's watched my story and then watching all their stories, or if people have messaged me, start clicking on their stories. But in terms of not letting yourself sabotage yourself, I'm really big on not following toxic people on social media, and that's why I literally have everyone muted, so that I don't compare myself to other personal trainers. I don't compare myself to how much money they're making or what shape they're in. I don't compare myself to any like entrepreneurs or any. A thing that I would definitely start doing if I kept following people would be comparing myself to people running podcasts. I would start doing that. I just know that's what's going to happen. And you can be in control of your head as much as you want. That's a sort of subconscious thing that you can't fully stop. Like, we just do compare ourselves to others, and we've been doing that since humans existed. But it's way worse with social media, and it makes it something that you'd be doing subconsciously all day, every day. So again, that's another sort of strategy that I use to stop me from self-sabotaging myself, because it's not more that stuff you won't be using as like a motivator. You'll be using it more as a reason to go, oh fuck it, like their genetics are better than mine, I'm never going to get in better shape. Whereas it's really important that you just try work on yourself. It's not so much a strategy, but just always being like, I had a conversation with one of my clients the other day. She's like, she'd be very much looking for ways to beat herself up. So she's done absolutely class. Like, she's 10 kilos down. She'd never been to the gym before. So like, sometimes you get the odd client that when they start lifting, you can tell they've never really done anything sporty or anything gym related ever, really. And she now looks like she's been going to the gym for years, like just with her form and just the way she does stuff and just how much stronger she's got and stuff. And like, there's a massive, massive difference in her. There's a massive difference in the fact that she doesn't need to like think about going to the gym, but she still does that thing where she'll look at her stomach, or she'll like start looking at parts of her body and going, I want this to change. I want this to change now. Or I don't like this part of myself. Or she'll maybe overeat a little bit and she'll be like, I've absolutely fucked it. And I was saying to her, like, you have to start actually catching yourself on, whether it be writing it down when these thoughts come up, or even just messaging me, or just being aware of when you're looking for ways to self-sabotage yourself. I had another client before as well. She made really good progress, and I get people send progress pictures every 4 weeks, and she sent me her like week 4 pictures compared to her week 8 pictures, and was like, went off on a tangent about how she hasn't made any progress. And I was like, you've specifically sought out to be annoyed at something, because you should never really compare your like there's 4 weeks difference in there. Whereas if you just compared your week 1 to your week 8, you would see a really, really big change. But you've specifically picked out the part where you know you're not going to see, even if it's subconscious, it's probably not conscious. You've specifically picked out the part where you're not going to see any progress. And I think I've got some theories on why that is, but I think people just know that it's hard to change. And again, the chimp part of them is going, this is hard. Let's look for reasons why we don't have to fucking do this. And you'll find ways to try self-sabotage yourself. So you'll never, ever, ever stop that, but being aware of it. What we're trying to achieve is to dim that down, not stop it, because you're never going to stop it. It's there. So you're just trying to calm it down. You're just trying to get to a point where it's manageable and you're aware of it, rather than let it take control of you, let it make your decisions for you. I think there's fine lines between all of it. There's fine lines between actually working too hard and burning out, or just telling yourself you've been working too hard when you haven't. I'd be pretty bad for that sometimes, probably just telling myself that I've been working too hard when I've just kind of been on my laptop for 4 hours, but I haven't done that much work. So you yourself will know when you start actually asking yourself, have I worked too hard this week and not able to go to the gym, or am I just like making an excuse for it? I think that like I'm pretty much through my notepad, to tell you the truth. That's the stuff that I wanted to cover. I really wanted to go through. I really didn't want to have a wanky talk about motivation and like coming across like Joe Rogan-esque, where you're just like, you have to fucking do it. You have to be at it all the time. You have to work hard. I wanted to more come at it from the point of like trying to get you to understand what everyone goes through, what everyone deals with, and why people can get over it and why people don't, and what actually stops them, and then actually making people aware that they can actually change things. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I want to get better at doing these solo ones. I want to get better at formulating my thoughts, because even now I'm sitting at the end of that going, did I actually get what I wanted to say out, or did I just mumble a load of shite? But I think I got the general sort of idea out there. So yeah, just once again, if you could support me any way whatsoever. I haven't started looked for a sponsor yet. I'm not too sure if I want like a proper sponsor, because I don't want to get them in, or just don't want anyone to have any impact on what I say. I want to be able to say what I say and not be like, oh, is a sponsor going to pull out because I've said this ridiculous thing. So any sort of subscribe, or rating on Spotify or rating on Apple would really help me out. And I hope you enjoyed the podcast, and just let me know if you did in my DMs.